Hi, this is Roger, thanks for dropping by. Tray time. Haven't done much of this lately, have we? Now this is, well, from the previous video you will know that I've been doing some labels. So this one already has its label done, and I went to put it on there and I thought, well, that's stupid because it's coming off of the mount. So anyway, this is a Leylonia. Unusual combination. And it's not doing very well on the mount, and that's all I can say. And I think it's because the base of the plant stays wet because of all the moss. Now some plants need that moss to stay hydrated. Now this one, I am reliably told, comes from a seasonally dry area, so it has a period of wet, but it also has a lot of dry. This is going to be rather difficult to get off, I believe. It's been on here a while. It wasn't anywhere near as difficult as I thought it was going to be. Some things, and you know. Right. Now the problem here is that despite how long it's been on here, the roots are dead. Well, it's just not going to grow, is it? It's just got no roots. So obviously these roots did not like being in this moss at all, and have just failed. Because I can recall this plant growing some new roots. They obviously went in the moss and failed. So when this was mounted, it was heavy on the moss, and that was fundamentally wrong for this plant. So all the moss has got to come off. This might mean I'm going to have to shut down and go out into the kitchen and get this under the tap. In fact, I probably will, or I'm going to start. I've got two delicate new growths coming up here and another two round here, and my only two new roots coming out from this area here. Now it's going to go in a pot. It'll go in a holy clay pot, but I might take some of the older parts off. I don't think I will actually. I think I'll keep it intact, because this was a new growth up this end of the plant. I mean, it failed to bloom, but you know, we've got two in the middle and two up this end. So what would I do? Take this end off? I'd lose a leaf, or two leaves in fact. I might just leave it as it is, and because you never know. You know, I've been told that somebody says once you start using this low nitrogen feed, you might start seeing shoots coming out all over the place. Well, maybe this will be the tester, but these roots are dead as a doornail. Absolutely dead as a doornail. And like, just wrong. That's not how this plant should be at all. Well, I reckon I've got enough of that moss out now to release and get air around the base of this plant. I can't really see any more moss there. It's just, all I've got is the stumps from the dead roots, if you see what I mean. Well, I've got nothing to put in a pot apart from those two roots at the front and some long straggly ones which, who knows, might branch out, but we will shorten them so that they'll go in the pot. Sometimes that encourages Cattleya type roots to branch, although this is a Laelia, but you can see some branchings going on. So there's some signs of life. Not much, but signs of. The next thing I'm inspecting this one for is scale. And I hate to say it, but tucked in there is a lot of them. I think they're dead. Yeah, so they're probably X scale. I'm just going to try removing some of these bulbs up the top here, because they're not, you know, they're shriveled, they're not serving any purpose. It would be a tidier plant for doing that as well. And there's no live roots up this end of the plant, they're all around the front. Do you know, I think I'm going to take that end off. like that. Now we've got a much nicer looking plant. Come to think of it, this feels like two plants. It is. So maybe this was lots of pieces potted up together, who knows. But anyway, we've got a piece there with two new growths on that, given what's going on with the other new growth, should produce some roots. So we'll take the tatty bulbs off. I know that reduces the size of the plant, but they're not doing any good. And we'll leave those few. Give me something to... Trouble is, if I leave that one on, I can't plant it properly, so that's going to have to come off as well. It's just falling apart. There's no strength in this at all. So now we've got a plant to plant upright. Some roots in some media and some leaves. So that's a sensible piece now. And then this piece is also a sensible piece that can go upright. Let me just cut that sticky out of the rhizome. Get the sheaths off while we're in here. Then if it has got any live scale lurking, at least I'll be able to see them and get at them. I don't think there's anything alive on here. Right, so we've got some signs of root growth on this part of the plant, but not round here we haven't. This is all dead stuff. Yeah, dead stuff. Once it turns to that sort of papery feel, there's no point in keeping that. It's not going to branch out if it's gone like that. But again, I'm going to trim those. Right, so that's not a bad piece now. That can go in like that. I know the leaves are over at an angle, but so be it. Oh, hang on. That's where they like to get, isn't it? An old flower spike. Yeah, they're down in there, aren't they? They may well, they still could be dead. I mean, this plant has been treated. But while we're there, everything stinks of alcohol. Right, so those are my two pieces then. That's what I'm going to plant up. And we'll see if this pulls up. With a lot more air around the roots and a much drier base to it. And we'll see if it now starts to grow. We've got two new growths on this piece, one of which has started some roots, and two new growths on this piece right next to each other that haven't started any roots yet, but they may well do. So I've got to get all this stumpy stuff off. It's just no point. Stringy stuff. Make it difficult to plant, but so be it. A few sheaths. Because the other thing is, when you've got a plant that really objects to being damp around the base, these sheaths hold water. You know, they can cause rot when a plant's far from happy. Right, so that's the mess. The mess that can't go outside in the garden is the fishing line mess. That's got to stay in here and go in the bin. But all these odd bits like this can go out in the garden. Not the mount. That's reusable. We recycle everything around here as best we can. You know, there's a lot of people say, oh, always use a new pot. Well, what do you do with all the old pots then? You know, recycle, reuse. Stop wasting resources. Right, so I have a holy clay pot, but it's dirty, so I'll need to clean it. And also looking at it, it's too big. So I've got to see if I can find one of the smaller ones. I don't think there's any in here. I remember this one. This one got used for something else, and the something else got taken out of it because it stayed damp. It held a lot of water, But with a huge hole like that in the bottom and media that only came halfway up, which would help support the plant, that could be a good pot for this one. Yeah, because it's not going to have any depth. The problem with this was the bark was the old Orchiata bark, which was starting to hold a lot of water, and in doing so was, you know, the pot was staying wet as well. So I think we'll be okay with that one. Right, I'll just go and chuck this lot out, and then we can get some media going and get this potted up. It'll probably end up having to be wired in, so I'll probably have to get some wire the right size and everything. I'll be back. Okay, let's see what we can do. I'm only going to use large bark. I'm looking for a big piece to go. The hole in the bottom of there is enormous. We don't want it all falling out the bottom, so we'll have a big piece across there and then gently put some pieces around it so that it doesn't move. Now, I'm not actually going to use much media because I don't want this staying wet. So it's going to be the driest Cattleya I've got, or Laelia. And as I haven't got roots as such, actually I'll take some out. I have got enough roots here to get some down in the media to at least start. And then we'll have the two new growths pointing towards the middle of the pot for that piece. And just get some bits in round under the plant. I haven't put my wire on yet because I want to see whereabouts this plant's going to come, and I'll be putting the wire through the big holes, so I don't need to actually worry about it that much. Right, that's that piece in. That's okay. The wire will pull it down. Now, where you've got two new growths there, haven't you? So you could go there, and we'll have the new growths quite close together. Got a little bit of media in. The next thing to do really is to get some wire on and get these pulled down so that they don't move around anymore. But there's no point in trying to pull them down onto media when they've got huge air gaps underneath them. So I'm just trying to get some media to pull down onto. Otherwise we'll just be pulling onto air and nothing will happen. Right, so I did find a few odd pieces of wire in the drawer, you know, sort of trimmings, which I might try and use if they'll do. You know, when I cut too much wire off, I don't like wasting it. Again, you know, it's what's the point in throwing that away if I can find a use for it? And this is a good use for it because it doesn't have to be tidy and it's going to get pulled tight with the pliers, if you see what I mean. So I need to pull that one down. So we'll go in there and come up over the side so that I've got something to bite onto. And then I don't want to pull against the new growth, so I want to pull against an old rhizome. So I'm going to go there. Do you know, I might get away with one piece of wire and do both plants. I must go steady with these two new growths. I reckon I can get both of these pieces in one go. Unfortunately there's not, oh, there's a hole. I was going to say there isn't a hole where I want it. So let's cut that off so that we stop poking ourselves in the eye. And then we need to go down into there carefully. Going to work. The way to find out is to pull. Yep, that's got them both. Woohoo! And that was easy. Oh, I don't usually get that sort of luck, especially not later in the day like now. I don't normally work this time of year at this time of day, because it's actually quite warm in here and I've had to move the fan and turn it off. Right, so all I've got to do now is fill up a few of these gaps so that if we do get some nice root growth, it's at least touching something. And there's our new roots there, so we'll put a few pieces on there. And I think that's going to do, because the whole point with this was the base was staying wet. So obviously I don't want to do it again, do I? So we've got a very shallow mix there of my hardest, rock hard bark that doesn't hold water. It really doesn't. I don't know how long it's going to last like that, but most of the stuff I've used so far of this, which I can't get again, is still rock hard. So it does seem to stay hard, you know, lasts really, really well. Pity you can't get hold of it again wherever it came from. But the chances are, because this came from Spice Exotic, the chances are they got the original of this from a European country, and CITES has now stopped that wood being transported, yeah, to protect the trees, which I'm all for, don't get me wrong, but that's probably what stopped this. Cutting down the trees for the bark to export to people like the UK, who have got a larger percentage of orchid growers than most of the other European countries. Right, so that looks a bit different now, doesn't it? Nice shiny new label. Right, I'm happy with that. I shall keep my eye on it. That's now going to go and have a good soak, because it's the initial soak which washes the dust off the bark and settles it down, yeah? And also we'll put some hydration into those roots, and then we'll just have to keep our eye on it and see what happens. The whole plant could fail. It is possible. I can just twist that up right. No, it's not going to. I'd rather the shoots came out sideways this time round than actually mess up the fact that that got a grip first go. I don't want to lose that. That was important to actually get that wire to bite onto the two plants at the same time. So there we go. Quick repot from a mount to a pot. Well, that doesn't happen often, but in this case, hopefully it will do the job. We'll see. See you next time.